Brij, the Islanders getting things done. This is a team that, as things have gone throughout the regular season, expectations certainly to reach the Eastern Conference Finals as they did a year ago, perhaps challenge for the Stanley Cup, and an impressive Series 1 against Pittsburgh, who is certainly the formidable opponent, that championship pedigree. But the Isles doing enough. Anthony Beauvillier, Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson, rather, with a couple of goals. So this is a team that is finding scoring from a number of places and doing what it takes to win against a tough Pittsburgh team in 6 games.
Yeah, Nick, you touched on all the points I was going to get to. I mean, this is a team with expectations to hopefully contend. You talked about going to the Eastern Conference Finals in the last season. They've been out in the playoffs, I believe, the last 3 seasons. So, of course, expectations are high. Tonight, for the first time, they had 9,000 fans at the Coliseum, their largest crowd. You could see it on TV. You could see it, just like the Garden is roaring right now. The Coliseum was shaking. And, you heard from the players after the game. They felt that extra boost from the fans. And early on in the game, it really looked like anyone's game. Pittsburgh scored first, followed by New York. It was really just flip-flop, and then it was tied at 2. Pittsburgh goes up 3-2, and then in 2 minutes and 59 seconds, the Islanders score 3 goals, including 2 13 seconds apart, and that really just gave all the momentum to the Islanders. And at that point, they just sort of had to play defense, and they closed it out in the third period. And yeah, they're moving on in 6 games. They won over the Penguins, who were the higher seed. They would have gone back to Pittsburgh for Game 7 had they lost. And yeah, a lot to play for tonight, I think, including the fact that this could have been the last game in the Nassau Coliseum with the Islanders moving to the new arena next year. However, with them winning this, they will play more games in the next playoff series. Just another little tidbit there. But overall, if you're a New York sports fan, you're feeling great right now. Knicks are up. They're still up 10 with about 8 minutes left. The Islanders have won their series. It's a great time to be a New York sports fan.
Yeah, Brij, I don't know about you, but this was a really fun series. I mean, this had 2 games that went into overtime and a lot of really tight, exciting games. And both of these teams, I mean, they weren't afraid to get into it. And, there was a lot of altercations going on, but alas, the Islanders do move on in 6 games, which I think is really impressive. And, I guess I'm just asking, how do you think they stack up against the Bruins next round? Do you think they have a chance to possibly go back to the Eastern Conference Finals and live up to these expectations that have been set?
That is a good question. And you do talk about taking down the Penguins in 6 games, because I'd say going into the series, I'd say, okay, if they're going to beat the Penguins, it'll probably be 6 or 7 games, right? I mean, you look at 2 games that went to double overtime or overtime, pardon me. I think one of them went to double overtime. I mean, so obviously these teams are either evenly matched or, one is just barely better than the other. But the Islanders definitely proving themselves tonight. Stacking up against the Bruins, look, Boston is a fantastic team. You look at their history, you look at how well they've played this season. Look, I think with the momentum that the Islanders have carried throughout the season and throughout this series, they've proven that, yes, they can go on and they could win. I think it's anyone's series. Look, I mean, I'm optimistic, of course, coming out of New York, I'm hoping it's Islanders. If you're a New York Islanders fan, you would hope that they would win it in 6 games, but I think it could go 7 games, to be honest with you. It's really one of those series. I think both teams are really strong. And again, to go back to the Eastern Conference Finals, that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to overcome and go all the way to the Stanley Cup, I think. I think the Islanders need to set those expectations. It's been so long for this fan base. I mean, they talked about it wasn't since the late 80s, I believe, since they've really contended.
Last thing from me here on the Islanders, mention the across-the-board contributions for them. Beauvillier, Palmieri, Brock Nelson. Is there somebody who needs to continue doing what they're doing or get going that's going to allow the Islanders to really take off from a player perspective in the second round?
I think if you look at Beauvillier, what he's been doing for the team, especially tonight, I mean, he was all over the place. I don't know how much of this game, obviously, with you being on one-on-one, you weren't able to catch the majority of it. And, of course, the Knicks, there is a lot of sports to catch tonight. But for those who did manage to tune in, you would see Beauvillier going all over. I think he scored at least once. He was assisting. He was all over the place. If he can keep this up, he is a key contributor for the Islanders, someone to look for in the second round.
3 goals in the series with the Pens. Islanders take it in 6 games, 4-2, and advance to the second round against Boston.